Welcome back to Bloody Good Besties, or welcome if you're new. My name is Gabby,
I'm Shada.
And I'm Millie.
and we talk true crime. I love true crime, Millie likes true crime, and Shada hates it. So we thought it would be a perfect thing for us to sit down and dive deep into true crime and see what we think and discuss. All of us have really big opinions. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we disagree, and it's just nice to spend time together.
I don't know if nice is the word.
I was struggling for adjectives, but I'll take it because I'm foreign.
It's interesting. I also feel sorry for all of my colleagues the next day after an episode because I come in raging about this case. I'm probably not the best manager to work with that day, so apologies to any of my work colleagues who have to deal with the wrath of me.
Sorry, but not sorry.
Sorry, not sorry.
I would like to point out Millie's pizza pants if anyone's watching on YouTube. And if you are watching on YouTube, like, subscribe, and comment, please. And if you're listening on Spotify, give us a 5-star purely based off Millie's pizza pajama.
Pizza attire.
And I've got socks with Shayla face on them.
I think that's the best thing ever.
That'll be a thumbnail for the video.
It says, I love my husband.
Anything to report? Anything funny happened since the last episode? Probably not. Also, our cups. Forgot to mention our new cups. I like my little cup.
That's my favourite.
Which one?
The cupcake.
I think the cowboy hat is my favourite now that I've...
Cute.
Anyway. So this case, Shada, you're the only one that doesn't know the details. I've spoken to Millie off the record, and she probably knows more than me.
Oh.
So Millie and I will be double teaming here. Well, Millie, please stop me at any point if I've missed any details.
Okay.
Yeah, Millie has watched more probably things than me about this. So she's my co-host for the day.
Woohoo!
You're just here for the ride.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so trigger warning. This story includes mentions of violence, sexual abuse, and brief mention of abuse of minors. So please listen with care.
Great.
Today we will be talking about Florida's deadliest woman, Aileen Wuornos. Before she pulled the trigger, before the headlines turned her into a monster, Aileen Wuornos was a child that was abandoned, abused in many ways, and left to survive alone. Her adult life wasn't any easier. For over 12 violent months, she killed 7 men, and the line between self-defense and cold-blooded murder blurred forever. Today, we dive into the life, crimes, and final confessions of Aileen Wuornos. And what I struggled for the last 30 seconds with is that I saw in my peripheral vision, me the whole time was just nodding. Did I nail the intro?
Yeah. The wrong, maybe it's the wrong word to use, that I'm excited for this case because it is interesting in a way that you're going to be, like we've been angry about previous cases, you're going to be conflicted.
Oh.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm maybe excited is the wrong word.
Yeah.
Because of the crimes, but.
That's why I said that it's the line between self-defense and cold-blooded murder is blurred because it's very... I still don't know where I stand here.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, mate, I'm excited.
Okay.
Aileen Carol Pittman was born on February 29th, 1956 in Rochester, Michigan. Her early life was marked by instability and trauma. Her father, Leo Pittman, was convicted of child molestation and died by suicide in prison in 1969. When she was almost 4, her mother abandoned her and her brother, and they were placed with their maternal grandparents. She changed her last name from Pittman to Wuornos because she and her older brother Keith were adopted by the grandparents Laurie and Britta Wuornos. And then after the adoption, she legally changed the name. So that's why we know her as Aileen Wuornos, but she was actually born Pittman. Friends later described the home as abusive and chaotic. And by the age 11, Aileen was trading sexual favors for cigarettes, food, and shelter in order to survive.
Wow.
Her 11. So in the previous case, we were talking about a 12-year-old girl being abducted. and we were shocked and outraged by the whole thing. And Aileen was actually 11.
And she's initiated it. So like she's comfortable in these environments that she should not be comfortable in, or
Correct.
she's been exposed to stuff that she just should not have been exposed to.
Comfortable is probably not.
No, but you know what I mean? Like it's in your
She's in
you're in things that you would never known to be. Like
at that age.
never expect an 11-year-old to be okay or not okay, it's not even the word. But you know what I mean? Like doing this kind of thing because it's not
You shouldn't be around it at that age.
No. Nor exposed to it.
Her adolescent years saw further downward turns. By her late teens, she was hitchhiking, living on the margins, engaging in prostitution and crime. The world she entered was one of survival more than a choice, a world that would shape the violent path ahead. So we are also in times, just for context, when hitchhiking was literally like a mode of transport. Like now we know, don't get in strangers' cars, but hitchhiking was instead of getting an Uber or a cab or a bus.
Normal.
Exactly. So also that was like a normal thing to do back then. And she was basically homeless, like because she would just run away from home at that point. So she was literally living on the road, hitchhiking. She never had a permanent address at that point, right? So she's on the road trying to make ends meet. And what's the easiest way to make money as a young girl? Prostitution, right?
She's a teen, so it's like 16.
Adolescence is basically teens, yeah. So it's not a great start by any means. So obviously she was born in 56, and then now we're going to be in the late 70s and early 80s. So I'm not going to dive deep into like what she's done in that time, because it's not that it's irrelevant, but it doesn't bear enough to influence this. So I'm going to go straight into her being in Florida. So in the late 70s and 80s, Aileen drifted into Florida and began working as a sex worker. She formed a relationship with Tyra Moore, who became her partner and eventually her accomplice. So that was, before that she was straight, and then she began having like a lesbian relationship, and Tyra was like the first one that she sort of fell in love with. So they moved together across Florida, living in an income from street work, drifting from place to place. Again, no fixed address. During these years, Aileen carried a gun, a .22 caliber revolver, and had multiple arrests for crimes such as armed robbery and car theft. She alleged she carried a gun for protection, given the nature of her job and meeting unknown men. It's kind of fair, but also kind of not. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a grey area in my opinion. That brings us to late 1989 and late 1990. Within that time, I'm going to go straight to it because there's a lot to cover. Aileen murdered 7 men in Florida in that time. So 12 months, 7 victims.
What? Okay.
Head in, straight in. So her first known victim was Richard Charles Mallory, aged 51. She killed him on November 30th, 1989. The body was found December 13th, so 2 weeks later. He was an electronics store owner in Clearwater, Florida. Aileen claimed she shot him in self-defense, alleging he'd been assaulting and sodomizing her. But the prosecution, and I'm going to cover that court case, but just to briefly mention, they argued that she killed him during a robbery and not purely in self-defense. Her second victim was David Andrew Spears, who was 43, missing from May 19th, 1990, and body was found on the 1st of June. He was shot multiple times, and the nature of the crime echoed patterns in other murders, which I'm about to tell you now. So her third victim was Charles Edmund Cascadon, aged 40. He was found on June 6, 1990, but presumably killed late May, early June. So again, few weeks since they found him, and his body was badly decomposed, because also bear in mind it's Florida and that was like May, June, hot, right? So his body was found wrapped in an electric blanket in Pascal County, Florida, and he was shot 9 times with a .22 caliber weapon. So her fourth victim was Peter Abraham Sims, age 65. He was missing in June 1919, and last seen on the drive from Florida to Arkansas. His car was found abandoned in Orange Springs, Florida, and Aileen's prints were found in the vehicle and his body was never recovered. Her fifth victim was Troy Eugene Barris, aged 50. He was found on August 4th, 1990, body in the wooded area along State Road 19, Marion County, Florida. He had been shot twice. Her sixth victim, Charles Richard, known as Dick Humphreys, aged 56, was found on September 12, 1990, in Marion County, Florida again. He was a retired U.S. Air Force major, former police chief officer, and former state child abuse investigator. He was shot 7 times in the head and torso. And lastly, seventh victim, Walter Gino Antonio, age 61, found November 19th, so we're going from November 89 to now in November 19th, 1990, so it's a year, near a remote logging road in Dixie County, Florida. He was shot 4 times, his body nearly naked, and his car found days later in Brevard County. Clearly, like, you can see the pattern, and I wanted just to get straight into the nitty gritty because there's so much to the story. It's mainly about everything that transpired afterwards, because it's known, like, there's evidence of her being at these crimes, right? So they linked it really quickly, which I will get into. So I just wanted to get that really quickly just so we can get into the rest of the story.
It's a lot of people.
It's a lot of people, and they can see the pattern, right? There's a lot that's similar, which obviously made it easy for the investigators to start linking that. So, and it's all in the same area. So, you know, in the other cases we were talking about, the police officers or counties not necessarily talking and linking the murders, but she was literally doing it in all the same area where probably police were probably the same teams or talking to each other because they were within the same vicinity. So that was her first mistake, really, amongst many. Investigators began to link the murders through patterns: missing men, cars found abandoned, pawn shops receipts, fingerprints, and witness statements. So she wasn't very careful, so it was actually really easy to find her. And fingerprints, because she was arrested for like car robberies and stuff. So once they found the prints, right, you knew exactly who you were looking for. And especially if you were a sex worker, there's only certain areas that you might be in. So it was super easy to find her, right? So in January 1991, so the last murder was November 1990. So in January 1991, Aileen was arrested. So Aileen claimed the men had sexually assaulted or attempted to sexually assault her, and that she acted in self-defense. Prosecutors, however, argued her motive also included robbery and the elimination of witnesses. The murders were marked by their stark brutality, so the men were shot multiple times, dumped near highways, the cars abandoned, bodies discovered in remote locations. The pattern was shocking partly because it defied typical profile of female offenders. So what I know from, you know, talking or listening to true crime is that female offenders or killers, serial killers, whatever you want to call them, their killing method of choice tends to be poison, right? Something that doesn't involve,
not messy,
is the highest probability it will be poison, right? It's not going to be gun or something violent like knife, gun, unless you're being attacked, so you need to react and you happen to shoot them. So it's kind of self-defense sort of thing. But women tend to, poison tends to be,
That's really interesting,
the highest rate of female offenders if they kill someone. So
this is quite strange for her to be shooting.
Because initially, police never thought, when they had the first murder, they'd be like, okay, it had to be a man, right? Like, it's so violent. But because it was her prints they found, they knew it was a woman. But if it wasn't for that, they would have never suspected that was a woman because of how violent the nature of the crimes were. Like killing a man 9 times, 4 times in the head and torso. They wouldn't have thought that a female could do that. Because a man would defend himself and a woman just wouldn't do that because it's a close-range, violent murder. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The investigators now face the challenge, get a confession. So they turn to Tyra Moore. In exchange for immunity from prosecution, Moore agreed to work with law enforcement. The reason being is that they were together, so they were traveling together. So she, at the lowest point, knew about the murders, right? Bare minimum, which includes obstruction of justice because you never call the police. That's basically a fact. Like you've committed a crime.
She knew about them.
But she knew about them. So That's why she's like, listen, I'll help you out, but I don't want anything, I don't want any punishment, right? So we're like, cool, let's do that. So what they decided to do, and bear in mind, they were like in love, right? Like Aileen loved her. So from the motel room, she made taped phone calls to Aileen in custody. So police was with her in the motel room, sorry, and they taped them, yeah. In one of those recorded calls, Aileen said, and that's an actual quote, I'm not going to let you go to jail, Ty. I love you. If I have to confess everything just to keep you from getting in trouble, I will, end quote.
Okay.
The call became the lever. Within days, Aileen made a full confession to investigators, more than stepped into the role of a key witness at 1992 trial. So Aileen didn't fully confess, I killed him, I shot this person, that person, that person. She was like, I don't want you going to jail. And then she went to the police and be like, I'm going to confess to everything.
Okay.
Because I don't want Ty to go to jail. Like, I did it, I'm going to confess.
Why are you pulling such weird
I'm
faces?
going to chime in.
Go on.
I'm going to chime in after. I want to hear what the rest you're going to say. And then
But if it's something to do at this point, chime in now.
I can give you good context, right? So you have to remember all of this is alleged as well because it's based on what she said, what police have found, etc., right? But the timeline is before she properly met Ty, the first murder had already happened, but they hadn't found him, right? So what had happened allegedly is she got into the car to do her prostitute thing, but he viciously raped her, sodomized her, threw acid on her back, and was essentially torturing her. And she she killed him basically. She killed him out of malice, and she kept smashing at him until he was dead. Yeah, so it was horribly vicious, but she was being tortured. Yeah. Then she meets Ty, right? So she meets Ty, and she's had a life of trauma, a life of sexual abuse, a life of prostitution, a life of just people just not respecting her. She doesn't respect herself, and falls in love with Ty. And Ty is a closeted gay, and she saves Ty from her family, who also have had her living in a closet and all of this nonsense, like wouldn't let her be herself. So saves her, says, don't worry, baby, I'm gonna, pay our way. Right? But don't ask me where I get the money from, but I'm gonna pay our way, I'm gonna make sure.
Living in a
fine.
closet, literally or figuratively?
Damn close to, right?
Okay.
Yeah. And so then goes to do her prostitution job again so she could provide for her and her new girlfriend, and gets basically triggered because the guy starts to be rough with her, and she kills him. Yeah, she kills him because she gets triggered, thinks the same thing's gonna happen again. She kills him, and then walks away with a load of cash because the guy had a load of cash on and took the car. And then Ty was really happy with the amount of cash that she brought home. So then it became more of like all of these guys that are picking me up deserve it anyway because they're all the same, right? So then this is where it escalates and it does get blurry because you didn't have to kill those guys. Not all of those guys were
bad people.
going to be bad people. Yeah, they were just prostitution, whatever.
And prostitution was also different back then as well.
Yeah.
It was genuinely you would find women on a highway.
Yeah.
And even in it used to be everywhere. It was literally before it was illegal. So I guess it was a way of making money at that point, which obviously grey area, of course. But that was a way to make money. It wasn't as
Did you need to be violent?
no.
Yeah.
You'll just go do your business, they'll exchange money, and then
Yeah.
he will drive away and she'll go and have a client 10 minutes later. And that's it, right? They had regulars.
Yeah.
Right?
So, so she just got into this pattern where she just assumed all these people.
Yeah, one victim I read was the Air Force major, former police chief, and former state child abuse investigator.
Yeah.
Right? Well, doesn't make him a good person, but he was doing a good. You're doing a good job. He was literally investigating child abusers, right? So.
So yeah, basically the way the story is she gets pressured by Ty because they have this house now. Gets pressured by Ty to start bringing some money because they can't eat, they can't do anything So she feels like she has to go out and do it again, which she didn't want to, but then she did. And then this is pretty much about when she gets caught, right? The problem is she was besotted with Ty and fought finally she'd found someone who was trustworthy, that
Who loves me and cares for me.
who would do anything for them.
But why does the shooting bit need to come in if you're then robbing someone?
No. Because of what the first guy did,
Yeah.
and the second guy
Traumatized.
basically tried to do the same thing, was pretty violent with her, started strangling her, choking her, so she killed him, thinking that it was going to go the same way. So every guy she just assumed and put under the same umbrella, like, well, you're going to try and kill me anyway.
Which also comes back to her child abuse when her father was molesting her, all this shit that probably never came to surface. She said she was raped like 300, like 30 something times or something. So that must fuck you up. And at that point, you have to hate men. But for her, it was a means to make money, means to make Ty happy, means that Ty loves her. Does that make sense? How it all like sort of connects, not justifying it in any way, but that's how I understand it. I think that's how a lot of people understand, and I'm assuming that's how you understand it as well,
You also
Millie.
have to understand, think back at the age, right? So the dad was put away, right, for child molestation when she was 4. Like that's we're talking like different level. Like that is young, to be introduced to these things. Obviously, 11 already, she's selling sexual favors. This is a child. This is a life.
She was never a child. Let's just put it
Yeah.
there. She was never a child.
It was more the bit where you're conflicted. Obviously, it's not the right thing to do. You can't just go around killing people. You're conflicted because the person she put her faith in and trusted in finally felt like she was loved. Dubbed her in. Dubbed her in, even though she also was party to getting some of this money and was telling her to go out and rob these people to get money so that they could have a life.
You see what I mean? Like, it's not an easy thing. But imagine, like,
Shade like she's over your butt. You should kill
Yeah,
people.
I would like to hear the rest of the story
Okay.
because I'm at the minute I hear you, but I'm not. I want to get the full
that's
before I form an opinion.
that's a good background because I didn't include that in because I sort of like woven things in, but it's good to get that background in just so you can understand the dynamic, why she did it, because I think she was so broken. She, like Millie said, she finally had someone who loves her and someone who was feeding, oh, she's happy now, she makes me happy, but she's happy when I bring her the money. So I'm going to carry on selling myself for money. But I hate all men because all men are
Trying to do what that guy did.
exactly hurt me. Men are terrible. Going back to your dad. So you're just doing these things that you really shouldn't be doing. So it's a silly cycle. Okay, let's go to the trial, right? So again, we know she did it. So her first trial began in 1992, and Ty's choice was complex. She loved Aileen, supported her, and lived with her. Yet she sat in the witness box, contributing to the conviction of the person she once called the love of her life. The media outlets later described her as the unlikely pivot in one of America's most notorious cases, because just no one expected she would do that, right? So, what did the prosecution claim? They argued that the murder, Mallory's murder, so her first murder, was a capital first degree murder, meaning it was planned, right? Committed in the course of a robbery with a firearm, making it eligible for the death penalty. They asserted that Aileen killed Mallory not out of self-defense but for gain. She shot him, then stole his vehicle and his belongings. Evidence included items belonging to Mallory, his car, and pawn shop receipts tied to Aileen and her partner Ty. They also introduced evidence of Eileen's other murders, or alleged murders, under Florida Williams rule, so the jury could see a pattern of behavior. So usually you're not allowed to talk about other things she maybe is accused of on trial for, because they basically trialed each case separately. Each person was treated as a separate case in this instant, not as like, here's a case and there's 7 people. No, like that particular trial in 1992 is just, what's his name, Richard Mallory, sorry. So to me, it's strange that it's a Florida thing where they can talk about other cases, because usually you shouldn't and you don't, because you can influence their opinion. So what did the defense argue? They sought to present a self-defense claim, like Millie was saying, that the Mallory had beaten raped, or attempted to sexually assault Aileen while she was working as a sex worker and then shot him in the fence. They tried to introduce Mallory's prior criminal record because he was convicted many years earlier of assault with intent to sexually assault. To support Eileen's self-defense, just to show that he had a violent past and he sexually assaulted someone in the past, allegedly. However, the judge refused to allow the entire record to be admitted, which I find interesting because I think it's a very vital piece of information. She killed him anyway, but still. In mitigation, the defense presented psychiatric evaluation indicating Aileen suffered from borderline personality disorder and an antisocial personality disorder, and argued her erratic behavior was rooted in childhood trauma and abuse, which was corroborated by the psychiatric evaluations. On the stand and in other statements, Aileen asserted she acted in self-defense. She claimed Mallory had assaulted and sodomized her, and she shot him because she believed he was going to kill her. She later admitted inconsistencies. While she sometimes stuck to self-defense, she also admitted that some murders were committed for robbery and that her self-defense claims was not consistent across all victims, which makes her look a bit shit at that point.
Which is accurate.
So
later on she said the same thing. First one was like utter self-defense.
But it's just then hard to...
Yeah, you can't feel sorry for her after that, because then after...
You did it for money.
Or to keep the life with this new girl so that she could keep this happy life. You know what I mean? Like desperation.
Yeah, it's hard once you said the other one wasn't for money. It's harder than,
My brain is totally spiraling right now.
In what way? As in, like, we need to explain something, or you're just conflicted?
It's like I'm definitely conflicted. I understand the first one. There are some parts of this I just really don't understand. I still think horrible what she's done. Horrible what these men potentially have done, obviously. But there's always going to be something that makes you feel bad for her, because I can't speak on, we're going, oh, that's so messed up, or nobody can give this is how you should behave when you've had that trauma, unless you've experienced that trauma. And I struggle to go, yeah, maybe after the 6, you shouldn't have robbed him, but she obviously isn't well. And obviously, particularly back then, there's no support for people who aren't well.
Yeah.
These things aren't really established. And it does make you feel for her, even though it's sad that potentially innocent men have been killed. But I don't think with that's like pure intention of malice. It's just you're not registered or wired up properly, which is sad.
So in law books, to you, it wouldn't be a first-degree murder. It's more second or manslaughter in some cases.
Yeah, like when people go, oh, I'm just claiming insanity, and it's just an easy thing to do. That is like textbook definition of somebody who cannot be mentally sane. Like that trauma you can't deal with that properly. Probably particularly worse back then. There isn't the right support. I think that whole thing is, I don't know what tie of that person is from, if how their relationship was, how abusive it was, like mentally, that no one would ever raise or bring up. They probably didn't have many friends.
Yeah, they were on the move. I want to say the run, but they were going from place to place. So they were traveling. They basically lived from the car. Like they just drove around in stolen cars.
So I mean, there's no stability. There's the only person who you have, or the place you have, is this girl, your partner. But then this is what I'm trying to say. In my head, there's more to that. Like, why has that happened? How was that relationship? Was it actually as lovey as we're talking about it being? Probably wasn't. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, conflicted.
On January 14th, she was convicted of first-degree murder. She went on to plead no contest or guilty to other murders, ultimately receiving 6 death sentences for her victims. In the mid-1990s, long after the murder spree and conviction of Aileen, a curious and unexpected relationship began to form between Aileen, sitting on death row in Florida, and an Australian filmmaker artist named Jasmine Hurst. Jasmine, feeling a deep resonance with Eileen's story, reached out in 1993 by letter, quote, I just felt compelled to write to her, end quote, Jasmine later said. Over the following years, they exchanged letters, Jasmine reaching out to the woman inside, intrigued by the trauma, the killing, and the story behind the headlines. Their correspondence stretched for 8 years. During those letters, Aileen opened up about her childhood, about the sexual abuse she claimed, about the nightmares drift through sex work and violence. Jasmine was also a survivor of childhood sexual assault, felt a kinship, an understanding that transcended typical journalist subject lines. Then, in 1997, the two met face to face in a rare, candid interview on death row. Hearst managed to get access, cameras, and trust. It was what some called the most revealing filmed account of Aileen's mindset and story. In that interview, Aileen said things not previously reported. She told Jasmine, quote, the real Aileen Wuornos is not a serial killer. I was so drunk and so lost in the head that I turned into one, end quote.
Aileen Wuornos, the real Aileen Wuornos, is not a serial killer. I was so drunk and so lost that I turned into one, but my real self is not one.
She admitted that some of the claims she made at trial, particularly around the first victim, Richard Mallory, were fabricated, especially the sodomy allegations. Quote, that's the only thing I lied about, end quote, she said dismissively, adding she was tired of, quote, keeping up stupid lie in court, end quote. She described her childhood with blunt clarity, raised by strict Christian grandparents, running away at 15, hitchhiking for years, enduring repeated sexual assaults and sexual violence. Quote, I got tough, end quote, she said. Her adulthood became a form of survival and the killings emerged from a place of brokenness. Jasmine's role was not just an interviewer. She became the confidant, the pen pal, the witness to a woman whose public persona was, quote, highway hooker or monster, whose interior self was raw, wounded, and human. Jasmine later said that she felt a responsibility. The interview might serve as the final major statement this woman ever made. In the footage, Aileen paused, looked into the camera, and said, quote, I'm telling the truth about my cases. I've never done this before, end quote. The interview was the time where Aileen attempted to reclaim her narrative, not only the crimes she committed, but the life she lived, not only the title of serial killer, but the pain behind it. The interview with Jasmine Hearst became a humanizing and a horrifying turning point, a woman holding a camera, a killer holding her secrets, and the world watching. In the last months of her life, Aileen agreed to one final, unusually candid interview, one that would be captured by Nick Broomfield for his 2003 film Aileen, Life and Death by a Serial Killer. Broomfield had first attempted to document her case earlier in his 1992 film Aileen Wuornos, The Selling of a Serial Killer, but this later interview took place on death row as Aileen awaited execution. So why did she agree to this interview? According to Broomfield, she was lonely inside and perhaps seeking something more than silence. So that was definitely a few years. So that was 6 years after interview with Jasmine. According to Broomfield, she was lonely inside and perhaps seeking something more than silence. As he said, quote, we became oddly close. Her end was so tragic, end quote. She had been through forced silence, incarceration, appeals, and a media storm. The camera offered a voice. In the interview, she made unexpected claims and startling disclosures. When she asked why she killed 7 men in such short span of time, she answered, quote, because the cops let me keep killing them, Nick. Don't you get it? End quote.
Nonetheless, you killed 7 men.
Yes, you did.
And I'm asking you, what got you to kill the 7 men?
And I'm telling you, because the cops let me keep killing them, Nick. Don't you get it?
Not everybody is killing 7 people. So there must have been something in you that was getting you to do that.
Oh, you are lost, Nick.
So
I was a hitchhiking hooker.
Right.
Running into trouble. I'd shoot the guy if I ran into trouble. Physical trouble. The cops knew it. When the physical trouble came along, let her clean the streets, and then we'll pull her in. That's why.
She also complained of her treatment on death row. According to Broomfield film notes, she claimed her mind was, quote, being controlled by some kind of communication device from prison, end quote, and detailed alleged abuses of sonic pressure.
I was tortured at BCI. They had the intercom on in the room, and they kept lying that it wasn't on, and they were using sonic pressure on my head since 1997. It was crushing my head, and they were using sonic pressure. They were trying to make it look like I was crazy at all times, rig up the room with torture. If I said anything about I think their whole plan was to try to make it look like I was totally crazy, and so nobody would believe anything I had to say about anything. And then one day I didn't wash my food off, and I was sick for 3 weeks, almost died.
So I don't know if at that point
This is just proof that
she's not there.
cuckoo.
Yeah.
She's genuinely like nuts. Her story changes so many times. Like she's.
What does sonic? What does this mean?
Like sound waves. Like people controlling her mind with sound waves. There's no medication she was given in prison. No medical attention. No nothing. This woman's cuckoo. It was quite clear from the very beginning that she's loopy. Something broke in that woman. Yeah. If ever there was going to be an insanity fee, I'm not going to lie. Like she's the definition of insane.
Yeah. Hi, this is Gabby from the future. We had some technical difficulties when we were recording this episode, and we weren't aware during filming that Millie and Shayla's mics stopped working, so the audio might not be the best. But we didn't want to lose this episode because it's really good. So, sorry about this, but please carry on listening as we are starting to heavily debate what happened to Aileen. Yeah, I mean, that I think, and obviously because that's in like 2002. So obviously she was there for a very long time on death row in prison. So her illness just got worse and worse and worse, obviously, at that point. Well, no one really called it illness. We just allegedly speculating, saying illness, right? But like it's fucking kind of black and white. So Aileen spent about a decade on death row in Florida. On October 9th, 2002, she was executed by lethal injection at the Florida State Prison. Her final words included, quote, "Yes, I would just like to say I'm sailing with the rock and I'll be back like Independence Day with Jesus. June 6th, like the movie, big mothership and all, I'll be back, end quote. It just shows like her mental state at that point, in my opinion. She declined a special last meal, reportedly opting only for a cup of black coffee. Aileen Wuornos remains one of America's most infamous female serial killers. While she is often labeled as America's first female serial killer, that description is not strictly accurate. Historians point out earlier cases such as Lavina Fisher in the early 1800s or Sarah Whiteling in the late 1800s. The precise first depends on definitions, documentation, and what counts as true serial killings. But what made Aileen so striking was her method: a female killer, male victims, firearm, and highway bodies, like we discussed. Her story challenges our assumptions about gender, violence, victimhood, and justice. She had a childhood of trauma, a life of marginalization, and a crime spree that shocked the nation. Media portrayals, including the Oscar-winning Monster 2003 that Millie and I have spoken about off camera with Charlize Theron playing Aileen, have both sensationalized and explored the deeper issues of her life. So the way she operated, or killed should I say, was obviously, like we've discussed, unusual for female killers. So male victims, guns, strangers, highways, murders. So not the usual stereotype for female killers, which is interesting to me. Why, I don't know, I was going to say why she had a gun, but I kind of get it with your line of work. Would it all be avoided if she didn't have a gun? Do you know what I mean? Would she still be doing what she was doing if she didn't have a gun? Was she doing it only because she had a gun? Do you know? Yeah, it's a what if. Her story also raises questions about the role of childhood trauma, early sexual abuse, abandonment, running away, prostitution, and survival on the margins. Those factors played a role in her life and arguably ascent into violence. She was the product of her own life and the system she believed failed her. And I think at the end, I just want to add probably how shocking and disappointed it was for Ty, someone that she actually loved for the first time and believed loved her back, to do her dirty like that.
To be the one who snitched on.
Well, to be fair, one could call it's the right thing to do.
Correct.
But also
the right thing to do, you should have done it when you knew about it the first time.
Not egg it on and encourage and keep making her do it.
When just on the cuff of when she's going to get caught, that's when you dog her in. No, man, you knew about this the whole time.
From a victim perspective, she should be in prison for what she has done. We agree on that. It's just the journey that got her to that point is the big. That's what I wanted to focus more of my story on, that because she killed them, she shot them. Yeah, we know that. It's what happened to let her do that point. Yeah. And because also prosecution was very firm on putting her away because she was a female killer, how violent it was. They not for once wanted to even hear about what happened in her past. That has nothing to do with it. We don't care. She was sexually assaulted by a dad. None of that. That was sexually assaulted multiple times. She is a cold-blooded murderer. Not once they wanted to hear that what happened in her could influence her.
This is the bit that makes me conflicted, because if you think about previous cases that we've spoken about, how these men sit on death row. I mean, crackhead Santa from last episode is still alive, yeah, and kicking. The Birdman was living his best life in jail, taking his hormones, doing whatever else. No one bothered about these people. They've probably done more vicious things.
And were actually evil.
Without reason. But yet you have someone here who has trauma, who was, by the psychologist, said to be, unwell, yeah.
Based on the traumas from the past.
What would be your solution?
I think for me it's just sympathy.
She already dead and crackhead Santa is still in jail, and we're not pushing for him to be.
I think what's also really interesting is, think of now, if obviously the dad was convicted at 4, there would be some sort of social services, heavy involvement for mental 100%. Health, and that I presume this was years and years ago, right? When was the year?
This is in the 80s. This is what I'm saying.
So she was
they would
19.
She basically has had no safeguarding.
1992. She was in her first trial when she was born in 1954, and her father was convicted in 1958.
Yeah, so like nothing to support you like there would be, say, now. If that happened now, you'd get a lot of support, I think, from mental health people. You know what I mean? Like mental specialists.
I don't know. I've read a lot about this. I've seen a lot about it. I've seen her.
It's tricky.
Interview. I've seen the movie adaptation. I've read a lot, and I think when you take all those bits of it, and I really do urge everybody go watch Monster. It's a great movie anyway, regardless whether.
And there's a Netflix. That's what I wanted to do. This story. It's out now, so it actually shows the interview with Jasmine. The pretty much whole of that documentary is that interview.
It is conflicting once you put all of the information together. And then
I wonder if it was the other way around, and it was a guy. And
you can't say that because her about Ed Gein was feeling sorry for Ed Gein.
I felt sorry for Ed Gein, so
there's a lot of stories where a lot of times, and we said this before, the man who's a serial killer has been abused by somebody, has been beaten, whatever it's been. Always abusive parents, always seems to be the case of the pattern. But we are a lot less sympathetic. Like, it's interesting hearing this because I feel a lot more sympathetic going, oh, her background and her trauma. But in other cases, we have less focused on that, like now. And I wonder if it's because she's a woman.
Yeah, maybe.
Just say
maybe.
There could be a case of that, because I'm going to speak for myself, I'm not going to speak for you, is for me having to imagine being, because luckily, thankfully, nothing like that has ever happened to me where I was sexually assaulted or abused by anyone. So having to imagine being a child experiencing that, and then being a teenager doing all sorts for a pack of fags, or being a roof under my head, having to do that and sell my body like that, and then being sexually assaulted multiple times. Fuck me, I can't actually imagine that. Would I kill a man if he wanted to touch me, or he touched me the wrong way and I had a gun?
Maybe.
Potentially.
Empathize more because you relate to it.
Like, I don't have reasonable doubt for me to say, no, I wouldn't do it. I don't know. I probably would. I'm not going to lie. I don't know.
This is what I'm saying, and I think this is where there seems to be more considered. It's not just a one-off here. We're talking about her dad.
Yeah.
her granddad was abusive, whether it was sexual
Allegedly, yeah.
is abusive. Other boys, then throughout her entire teenage life, have been abusive. She's had to sell something to get something for someone to care for her. Yeah. Then this guy, rapes her. Every person you think along the way should be trusted, or you have to do something to get something, by any male figure in your life. Yeah, hell yeah.
Devil's advocate. Don't put yourself in those situations then.
For sure. But at which point if you don't have a roof over your head?
Get a real job. But I know it's easier said than done, because that's the easiest.
Go watch Monster, I beg.
No, but let me tell you. But I'm saying it as a joke, but it's also like that. Also, in those times, that was the easiest way for a woman to make money.
I'd say because also in those times it was really difficult for a woman to get employment. Was not.
And she had a record.
She didn't have a college degree. She didn't have college anything. You can't even be a receptionist.
She had a record as well, because she stepped.
You are so much more.
So many layers to this.
It's interesting. It's interesting. Is this our first girl case? Female.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interesting. Our conversation is more interesting because we're seeing it from what if it was us, and you relate to things.
I think because the men that we've covered, none of them had a past like that. Because genuinely, we haven't covered.
We hardly dive into it. Also, men are trash. We hate all.
But no, but what I wanted to say is that obviously I know we haven't covered Ed Gein, and
you felt sympathetic for Ed Gein.
After the Netflix show, I did feel sorry for him, and I feel like
he was ill.
He was ill. His mother failed him, and I think if he was in the positions that he was in, he wouldn't have done what he's done.
Ego.
I think these exactly two situations, genuinely believe, if they had help when they were meant to get help, when the families weren't abusive, because his mama, even though she wasn't sexually assaulted him or his father, she fucked him up. Same abuse, right? So technically, like, key points of them are similar. So if they were taken away from those environments at an early age and actually be with people that love them, would they have committed those terrible crimes they've done? Possibly not. And I would put them in the same bracket. And to this day, I feel sorry for Ed Gein, even though he made lampshades of nipples and labias.
Yeah.
It's hot take.
Conflicting. It's
anyone with a background is conflicted. You are conflicted.
I have a lot of empathy, even if you've killed, but I'll be a good juror, because I would actually, deliberate this shit. Granted, still death row.
The conviction. You need for the conviction.
Yeah, still death row. But let's be human about the person, if they deserve it. All the shit people that we've covered in the past actually haven't done anything, or haven't, like the Birdman. He just killed.
Just born evil. Man.
He just killed 9 nurses or 8 nurses because he felt like it. I think Richard Speck was born evil. Because
some people are psychopaths, they're just born evil.
Yeah, but they say like when you're a baby, your development's like so important. It could be like one thing they've seen, they don't even know they've seen, to recall it that has happened that can traumatize someone.
But people that are psychopaths, it's like being dyslexic. You're born that way. Your brain has like a malfunction. And
that story.
I think that's the best story we've ever debated. I mean, like I said, she should have been convicted. She got what she deserved. I think what I didn't like about how it was handled is that the trauma wasn't. It was just thrown away. Yeah.
What I don't like is that she died so quick, and this Birdman was just sitting chilling in.
That's true.
He didn't die. Why did she die so quick, but these other people can't die so quick?
Because it was something new, I think, and the prosecutor just wanted her gone because she was a female serial killer. What the fuck is going on? We need to get her out. But as men committing crimes, it's just, oh yeah, whatever, another man killed someone, another man. Do you know what I mean? Whereas she was like, wow, statement. It's a big statement that we've cracked this, we've done this, and we nipped it in the bud, and she's... Thank you for watching. Do you know what I would actually like? Don't know if anyone's going to do it, I'm going to say it anyway. But we had such a good debate, it would be interesting. Even if it send us a message on Instagram, if you follow us and you've seen the video, let us know what you think. Leave us a comment about what we've just debated. and if you agree, if you're team Gab and Shader or team Gab and Millie or team Shader.
Oh, whatever.
Are you team, what should I call it? Sympathy, humility, or death row? And
Death row, correct decision.
no, but we still agree with death row. But anyway, subscribe, like, comment, share, send it to your mum. She might like it. See you next time.
Bye.